Hello everyone, my name is Vanessa Yad. I'm doing debate number 2 for whether or not the World Health Organization was effective to address COVID-19 and other global diseases. I'm going to argue that it was effective, and the reason because I think it was effective, I think that initially perhaps it wasn't the most effective because I think the World Health Organization did know of the coronavirus outbreak in Wuhan, China, back in 2019. I don't think they really expected the outbreak to be as massive as it really was. So I would say that it's kind of on their end, and that's something that I would say is valid criticism on the IGO. And overall, I think that initially they could have done a way better job at addressing the virus and hope maybe even preventing it from further spreading to the whole world, which it did. However, I think that if we think in terms of once it did spread, I think that they did do a good job of handling it. And I was looking at surveys from Pew Research, and it looks like a lot of other people across the world and even other countries themselves do agree that the World Health Organization did have a good handle on the coronavirus pandemic. For example, it looks like of those surveyed, mostly women would agree that the World Health Organization did a good job at handling it. And likewise, a lot of Democrats were also more likely to even become exposed to the information that the World Health Organization was spreading during the time, because it looks like a lot of Republicans, especially during the Trump administration here in the United States, they were more prone to just ignore what was going on, especially being that the country's leader at the time was promoting these ideals that maybe the pandemic wasn't real. So I think that's why a lot of people did vote that they, or did, when surveyed, voted that they were not in agreement with how the World Health Organization handled the situation. I would say that in those instances is not really a credible source or reliable source to survey per se. And I only argue that because they were not as aware of what the World Health Organization had to offer for them, what resources they were trying to provide, and what information they were advising, or what suggestions they were advising people to take in terms of like precautions. That's just in the United States. However, I believe in the beginning of the pandemic, Japan and South Korea were also favoring the World Health Organization. However, by May of 2020, both Japan and South Korea had really changed their outlook on the World Health Organization because of how much it had spread, and the fact that it was already spreading within their continent, but yet it wasn't really like addressed during that time. So I guess they also argue what I was saying in the beginning, that like it's something that could have been better addressed in the beginning and maybe even prevented, which would have been very very helpful for a lot of people. And I think however, I do think that overall, once the pandemic did spread, I think that the World Health Organization did put in an enormous effort and a lot of resources out there for both for the United States, but also for all countries around the world to take advantage of those resources. I do remember vividly that they provided very timely updates on the pandemic and how to better address it individually, but also as a country. Another part of that survey from the Pew Research is that, or mentioned that people mostly agreed with how the World Health Organization handled the information, but not necessarily how their country addressed the pandemic. And I think that's very true in my case. I think that generally, like, a good majority of the time, I was very discontent with how the Trump administration handled the pandemic and how they addressed it to the greater public. I think that could have been way better handled, but in terms of the World Health Organization, I think that they did a good job. It could have been a lot better. I think things can always be better, especially from such a large standpoint, or I guess, like, with such a large audience that they have to reach. I think that things can always be improved. But I think that in their case, I think they did a good job. So thank you so much for watching.